Hello students, I am quite concerned because I realized that many of you have difficulty doing the reliability question for source-based case study. Initially, I was a little bit worried for you because it's near the end of year examinations and not many of you handed in your work, at least for one class. The other classes who are watching this video, no worries. Most likely you are fine, you have handed in your work. And for students who have taught before or even graduated, you are welcome to watch the video and you can share more with me about what challenges you for reliability question. So for today, the purpose of this short segment is to share with you the thinking process for doing reliability question. So I'm going to start from scratch, looking at the sources, and I would be modeling my thinking as well. So I hope that when we watch this video, you'll be able to understand the thinking process that you will go into doing a reliability question, and you'll be able to apply this thinking process in your answer. If you have any questions along the way, keep your questions and feel free to ask me. So let's get started now. So for this question, in terms of annotation, first of all, I'll be highlighting or underlining the keywords. So the question is asking, how reliable is this source as evidence about the effectiveness of SkillsFuture? Just trying to get the pen out. So for this, first of all, I'll underline the keywords, reliable, hold on for a while, it's not appearing. Okay, it's appeared. So first of all, I will underline or circle the word reliable. Evidence about the effectiveness of SkillsFuture. So this is the command word reliable, which suggests that this is a reliability question. And evidence about the effectiveness of SkillsFuture, this is the question focus. So your answer must discuss whether or not the source is reliable in terms of effectiveness of SkillsFuture. So now let's take a look and recap the steps doing reliability question. So I asked us to do 4 paragraphs. So for the first paragraph, we'll say reliable based on source content. Second paragraph is reliable based on cross-referencing. Third paragraph, unreliable based on cross-referencing. And for the final paragraph, evaluation of provenance of the main source, which is source E in this case. So the reason why you do these steps is because for paragraph 1, first you must talk about the source content to decide whether or not you can trust the source, whether the source is reliable based on what it says. So this is a lower level, but it's essential because it gives you the foundation. You need to give the message of the source and the evidence so that you start off with this foundation, which allows you to do your cross-referencing steps. So now let's model the thinking. When I'm doing an exam question, first of all, I'll look at the issue question because every source will either agree or disagree the issue question. So for the issue question, is the Singapore government's SkillsFuture initiative effective in equipping Singapore's workforce with relevant skills? So there are a few elements. So first of all, we are talking about the Singapore government. Next, we are talking about SkillsFuture, and the outcome is equipping Singapore's workforce with the relevant skills. So you have the different elements there. I would encourage you to annotate with me if you have not done so in your own question paper. So SkillsFuture initiative, this is the policy, and of course, we are talking about the government, the actor in this case. So let's take a look at the background information. Usually background information gives you a summary of the issue, and that will help you to provide you the context to understand the sources. So for the background information, I have given the dates there as well as the content. You can read it on your own. So let's take a look at the thinking behind the sources now. I will go through every source, and as I go through the thinking, I'll be looking at the issue question. And we are going to decide whether the source agree or disagree the issue question with the accompanying evidence and the message of the source. So that will help you in analyzing the sources throughout the source base. So I would suggest that for your source base, you look at every source, whether agree, disagree the issue question, and the reason why. So let's do that now. First source, an article published on the website of Us Training, which is a SkillsFuture Singapore approved training organization on 9 September 2024. So when I see dates, I'm very interested. So let's take a look at the dates. actually 2015 when SkillsFuture started. So 2024 has been about 9 years since the start of SkillsFuture. So SkillsFuture is already quite established. So these are just all the thinking that will go into play. So let me write down some notes. After SkillsFuture was established. So when we look at the source, let's see whether the source agree or disagree the issue question. So having a brief overview of the source, we see that the source actually agree that SkillsFuture is effective in equipping Singapore's workforce with relevant skills. So I would say for source A is agree. And I need to give the reason why, which is the message of the source in response to the issue question. So for this source, we can see to answer the questions, it's actually effective in equipping Singapore's workforce with relevant skills because it allowed workers in the companies featured to equip themselves with skills to do their job better. Okay, so I'm going to underline the evidence now, enabling them to take on higher value roles in the company, equipping workers with the latest skills in semiconductor manufacturing. So that is the relevant evidence from the source to help you. Okay, let me just neaten this up. Let's look at source B now. Source B is a source published on SkillsFuture Singapore's website on 13 January 2021. Again, it's after the establishment of SkillsFuture. However, it's good to take note. It's actually 3 years before 2024. So things may have evolved since then, or may have been the same. We only know when we look at the source. So let's look at the source now. As the world progresses, new challenges will surface. Okay, it's a cartoon. So I'm interested to look at this expression. He looks worried. And over here, the contrast, he looks happy. So it seems to be a success story. Unforeseen skills. All these are the challenges. And of course, all these are challenges as well. So it's actually saying that SkillsFuture is successful because it allows us to navigate an uncertain future. So let's write that. I think this is quite straightforward. I love this source. So yes, you can use the word yes as well. You can use the word agree. Future effective. We have to make sure we don't leave from the source when we give the inference. So I'm checking the source to make sure that I do not leave. So maybe I can use provide workers with relevant skills. In a time of uncertainty. It's very hard to find a different word for uncertainty, so I shall keep that there. After all, we are looking at the ideas and of course to ensure that you understand. So that's the checks that we will do when we are marking your work. Now let's take a look at this. 26 February 2024. Again, after SkillsFuture, Channel News Asia website. Let's take a look at the story of Irene Yeo. So we can initially, when I see that it's a newspaper article, I initially assume that it will be hopeful, it will be positive. But let's have a closer look at the source. Irene Yeo, browsing SkillsFuture portal, reluctant to sign up, no time, stress, juggling many jobs. So you see that she's not able to use her SkillsFuture credits. She's not able to manage taking care of the family, her daily commitments to committing herself to SkillsFuture. So from there, we can see that SkillsFuture is actually unsuccessful. So this is a disagree. Because individuals do not have support. What type of support? Time, as well as workload management. And in this case, we are looking at the family commitments. What's the evidence that is here? Take care of family, don't have time, stressful to juggle work and studies, have a child, more life commitments, don't think can find the energy. So this is the relevant evidence we can use. Let's take a look at source D now. I really love that we learn a lot of things when we do source-based questions. So I hope that you are also finding this interesting and learning. Keep an open mind as you learn, as you explore. So 2025 is for SkillsFuture Singapore's website. Of course, I think most likely positive because from the website. But let's take a look deeper. Lina wanted the upskill, did not have opportunity. Well, looks negative initially. Her children, but let's take a look. Her children from 7 to 19 help her out with online tools like Microsoft Teams. She allowed the older children to take care of the youngest one. Employer also very supportive. So you can see that this source is very positive. It's a very good contrast to the previous source if you remember what the previous source is. So this would be yes or agree because well supported individual in terms of the family, in terms of the workplace. So the message is a completely different message from the previous source. Well, a very good source to do a comparison question for. I see that if you actually go through this analysis, you would likely do well for the source base because you have unpacked the key messaging behind the source based case study. So let's underline the keywords, help her out with online tools like Microsoft Teams, exams, older children take care of the youngest, employers understanding, flexible work arrangement, head to work later, complete her school assignments at her workplace. So this is all the support that the employer give as well as the family members give. Let's take a look at next source now. Blog post by Singaporean. So blog post also suggests it's a personal view. That's why I usually underline the provenance because that helps you to understand the source. So let's take a look at this. Aspiring hawker looking to join the industry, use SkillsFuture credits. Well, a supporter using the credits. The first couple of days were great. That sounds good. However, the program took a sharp downturn. So you can see the main message coming up now. So those students who actually focus on just the first part, they get the sub-message. It's actually not a very valid interpretation of the source because the main message is a criticism of SkillsFuture. Why? The module was a disappointment, stretched out with little substance, digital workplace utterly useless, irrelevant, failed to cover crucial practicalities like store setup, operational procedures and workplace safety, feel more apprehensive than assured. So this would be a disagree or a no. SkillsFuture not able to prepare individuals or equip them with the skills they need. And the evidence I've already given it to you there. Let's take a look at source F. Online forum post, July 2025. Overpriced courses, oh no. Source negative. May not be beneficial. Hobby related courses doesn't really help. So you can see that this is a disagree, no or disagree. Individuals' learning skills that cannot be applied to the workforce, and the evidence I've underlined for you. Okay, so because we are looking at whether it can equip the workforce with relevant skills, that's why although hobbies may be good, but we are focusing on the workforce. That is why this source is a disagree. Okay, so now that we have unpacked all the sources, let's do the reliability question now. Don't worry, you don't need to spend so much time during the exam, because I just said waste because I think that's what some of you may think. Because you will need to do assertion for the exam. So this process will help you to unpack all the sources. Now you can do inference, now you can do purpose, now you can do comparison, and do reliability and assertion through this exercise. No problem. You have done the thinking. Well done. So now let us think deeper to ATQ. Answer the question. How to do that? Look at the source. Look at the question, what it is looking for, and do source analysis to answer the question. So now let's take a look. Reliable as evidence of skills effectiveness of skills future. Explain your answer. So I think for this exercise, what I would do is to find a place to write for you, because otherwise it's very difficult. I have my hard copy here to reference, so you will see me write as I go through. Or some of you say that you prefer me to type, so I type handwriting nicer. Okay? So I'm doing it from scratch. Let's not look at the answer. Okay, maybe I just write. Because or will you prefer me to type? Oh, type. Oh, okay, can. I see. I can see in your eyes that you want me to type. Let me get the keyboard out again. Okay, if you have tips for doing video next time, you can share with me. I feel very noob now. I don't even need this online keyboard, but it's appearing. So let me get rid of it. Okay, let's do it. So paragraph 1, let's answer the question. So now we are looking at source E, so let's look at source E. Source E is reliable, because usually I want to say it's reliable for the first paragraph because it's easier. We just talk about source content. Has evidence that skills future, we need to say about the effectiveness. I just want to use the words in the question, so I will use the words in the question. Or skills future, I really need to think, so you also will likely think together as well during the exam, because source E argues that skills future is not helpful. Let's recall what we wrote earlier. It's not effective because it does not equip individuals with the skills that they need. So let's use back the words that we use. So that's the beauty of the previous exercise, because you have already done the message and the inference. You just need to copy down what you have painstakingly thought of earlier. It's not effective because skills future does not equip individuals with the skills they need for the workforce. I hope my memory is good. I think that's what we wrote. This is supported by source E, which states, I know you need to write, but let's see if I can cheat by copying and pasting. I mean, I took such a good effort to do this video, I deserve it, right? Let's see. Okay, maybe I want to use this evidence. No, it's quite difficult because of all the annotation I did. Let's try. Okay, never mind. Let me write. Which states, it's very hard to see, that the course the individual okay, maybe I just since the author is specific, I just use the words aspiring hawker attended was a huge disappointment utterly useless and failed. This is important because this is the one that really supports the idea that it does not equip them with the skills. Failed to cover crucial child practicalities like store setup, operational procedures, or workplace safety. Okay, you like to write more, it's okay, but I think that's good for now. So you already got your first paragraph done. Most likely you get 3 to 4 marks for this paragraph. So how to get higher marks? You need to do cross-referencing. So let's revise the logic behind the reason for cross-referencing. As I shared with you in class, when you want to determine whether a source is reliable or not, you need to check with another source. If another source supports your source, it means that your source is reliable. If another source disagrees with your source, it means that your source is unreliable. Understand, right? Support, reliable. Do not support, unreliable. That's why we do the cross-check. Okay? Cross-referencing check. So now let's do it now. So source E, let's do reliable first. It's reliable as evidence about the effectiveness of SkillsFuture because I already stated the sentence of all the sources. It's very easy for me to decide now. That's why I usually ask my students to determine the stand of each source first before you start, because now it's very easy. Okay, let's take a look at the sources now. I can choose any source I want as long as it agrees that SkillsFuture is bad. Looks like the most closest source is actually source F, because source F talks about jobs as well. Because you must be a similar issue, it talks about jobs as well. It talks about SkillsFuture, and it also says that SkillsFuture is not effective because over here what did it say? Individuals learn skills that cannot be applied to the workforce. So it's a very good similarity. So it supports the source because source is argument that SkillsFuture does not equip individuals with the skills they need for the support for the workforce is supported by source F, which actually I think they say the same thing. Skills that cannot be applied to the workforce, previous one. Oh no, the thing is jumping, never mind. Do not equip them with the skills they need. So very similar. So sorry, let me just adjust. I think I read too fast. They need for their job. Which says likewise, because it's really the same thing, so I don't really need to copy again. Okay, so this is supported by source F, which states. So let's pick up the relevant evidence for source F, which I've underlined. So because the author wondered if the courses are beneficial for career development because they are hobby related. Okay, so I will pick up the relevant evidence, which states that people spend money on SkillsFuture courses, which are, okay, let me quote the evidence, related instead of having the intention, okay, this is our own word, intention to have these courses benefit their career. So that's the evidence. So you can see a very strong support. Congratulations, you have gotten 5 marks. So how do you get 6 marks? Of course, marking scheme will differ for every question and the requirements will differ for every question, but this is just a guide. So how do you get the next higher marks? You find a source that agrees. So let's take a look. Source A supports, because source A says workers are equipped with relevant skills. Isn't that a direct contradiction to the previous source, which says that workers do not have the relevant skills? So let's load source A. Source E is unreliable as evidence about the effectiveness of SkillsFuture. You want to save time, you can just say unreliable because don't have to copy the whole thing. Because source E's argument that SkillsFuture does not equip individuals with the skills they need for their job is contradicted by source A, which argues that SkillsFuture helps workers develop skills that improves their job performance. This is supported by source E, sorry, not source E, source A, which states, so just be careful as well. If you write too fast, sometimes you may be careless. Which states, let's find the relevant evidence. This program equip workers with the latest skills in semiconductor manufacturing, enabling them to take on higher value roles within the company. Wow. One more paragraph to do. Let's do it. Okay, so we need to go to a high level of thinking. So let's try now. This source, okay, I need to adjust the formatting a bit. Where is my prominence? I need to bring it down. Let's go. Okay, I think let's just look at the prominence. This a blog post by Singaporean. So as a Singaporean who's creating the blog post, do you think that the author has a hidden agenda? Maybe not. He's just a Singaporean. We do not have sufficient information from the prominence to determine whether the author has a hidden agenda. So we could say that he's just somebody who is sharing experiences, because the purpose of people putting things into blogs are to share their experiences. And it's not that he's from a rival company. We don't know whether it's a sponsored post or things like that. So it's hard to say. So based on whatever information we have, we can genuinely believe that he's sharing his own experiences. So judging from that, let's try writing out the evaluation of provenance. Let's do something simple. So because we say it's not biased, so it's reliable. Source C is reliable because it is not biased. The author is an aspiring hawker. So maybe you can also say it's balanced, because the first part did say about how he was hopeful, who was initially hopeful about the course he was attending, and even felt that it was good. However, he later changed his mind because he felt the later part of the course did not meet the needs of himself and his classmates. He was merely sharing his experiences, hence without any agenda, hence he is reliable. Okay, so this is just my short answer. Let's take a look at the marking scheme to have more details. So it's very similar. The supporting experience did not have a hidden agenda. He just was sharing experiences. Okay? Any questions about this? If not, let me just stop the video recording and try to upload this. I hope the video turns out well and is helpful for your learning. If you have any questions along the way, please reach out to me and I will answer your question as best as I can. You are my former student who is watching the video. I also look forward to hearing from you. Tell me what you enjoy about social studies lessons from me, what you find memorable, and how I could improve as well based on your experiences. Really appreciate you taking the time to watch the video and I hope that you have a good day.